the bullet was stable. An example of a stable bullet is the 45 ACP full metal jacket that the military uses, where the bullet is quite stable going through the gelatin without turning at all. It doesn't precess or tumble. It just goes straight through, but it achieves extreme penetration. Now, once again, this is a bullet that I fired as a series of 3 rounds into 20% ordnance gelatin in March 1990. You can see that it attained, under ideal circumstances, extreme expansion. This is a bullet out of that series that I fired again on March 1990 into 20% ordnance gelatin, and you can see that it did not expand. A portion of the nose peeled off a little bit here, but this is the wound tract. It is much longer, much less damage is in this wound tract than you would expect for a hollow point bullet. It does not match the wound profile of a hollow point bullet at all. And yet this is under ideal circumstances, yet we still have a hollow point failure. How or why that occurred, to this day, I do not know. But it did occur. It's a mechanical failure for some reason that we weren't able to understand. But hollow point failures can do and will occur even under ideal conditions. In 1987, I was asked to participate by the FBI Training Academy and the Firearms Training Unit on the wound ballistics evidence, 9mm versus the 45, looking at the different bullet designs and what made them effective. I presented a position paper on the incapacitation, and in paragraph K of that presentation, I warned against the reliance upon hollow point bullets if they are required to expand in order to perform their task, because frequent failures to expand will be encountered due to abdominal shots, intermediate targets with closure of the tip, cocoons forming from wafted fiber insulation in clothing, and for other reasons. Why? Because my clinical experience as an autopsy pathologist has shown me many times that hollow points do not often expand. And this is an example from a case. You can see that in this bullet that was fired, it's a semi-jacketed hollow point with an exposed lead tip, and it just flattened the nose. Here's another one where instead of having that large mushroom type shape, it merely peeled back the jacket and eroded the bullet tip. The cavity is essentially undisturbed. That cavity did not collect enough tissue to overcome the pressures. In another paper I wrote on the contaminating potential of bullets fired through intermediate targets, my concern was that different bullet designs will strike clothing and drag clothing deep inside the wound, which may serve as a source of infection for combat surgeons. In combat surgery, we may leave 50% of the projectiles in place, but if you know that a projectile took a dirty piece of clothing down to the wound depths, you've got a greater risk of infection, and a surgeon needs to know that. In order to know that, he needs to look at the clothing. Hollow point bullets, flat nose bullets, will frequently cut a plug of material from the cloth, whereas round nose bullets, buckshot, and such will cause the cloth to split, but there'll be very little material removed from the strike point. This is Lieutenant Oliver's shirt. The entrance gunshot wound here is on the left side. This is the defect. You can see that it is a circular defect, obviously missing a center portion. This would be consistent then with either a hollow point bullet or a flat point bullet. In this case, we have a hollow point bullet, semi-jacketed, that has developed a cocoon by going through target material. In this case, clothing. The clothing wrapped itself around the side and the nose of the bullet, blocking the hollow point so that it could not expand. It did not expand, and it penetrated the body accordingly. This is the clothing. You can see that there's a missing portion from the jean material. Additionally, bullets, if they go through wafted material, can pull a cocoon across the top nose of the bullet. If this had been a hollow point bullet with a cocoon around it, there's no way that that cocoon would allow the bullet to expand. In ballistics testing, I have a cotton stop box that is filled with cotton wool. I shoot hollow point bullets into it all day, and it does not allow the hollow point bullet to expand. So it's a material that we can use to make sure that these bullets don't expand and thus preserve more of the rifling marks on them. And I think I've got some examples for you here.